Anyways, okay. My name is Tamsin Bennett, and this is my first video. So I really love like all those like true crime stories and stuff, and I've been obsessed with them for years at this point, and I decided that I'm going to do my own little channel and stuff. So yeah. Oh, and I'm also going to do my makeup because I recently found, what's her name, Bailey. I'll put her username like somewhere, but like I really love the idea of doing your makeup while talking about a true crime story, because I can't just sit here and like talk about a story like just sitting here. Like I can't. My ADD is just okay. I have a little thing right here with like all my notes and stuff. So the story that I'm going to be talking about is, or not the story, I'm going to try to avoid saying story because these are real events that happened, and it's like actual people passed and people were murdered, and I feel like it's a little bit disrespectful to call it a story. So this is the case of Mary Bell. Okay, I should probably start my makeup too. Okay, so where to start? When you can't read your own handwriting. So Mary Flora Bell was born in Newcastle, England, and she was born May 26, 1957. And her mother was 16 or 17 years old when she had Mary. And her mother, Betty Bell, was a prostitute. She ended up marrying Mary's biological father because it was like 1957, you like marry the guy that you have a child with, right? He was a criminal. He had cases and all that good stuff, and he was officially arrested for robbery, and so he wasn't really in the picture. He was also in and out of jobs, and it just wasn't a stable relationship at all. And so her mother was left alone with this baby, and she's like young. She attempted to murder Mary a couple times. She wanted it to look like an accident, and she just was very much of an unfit mother. She allowed men to come over and sexually abuse her by the age of 5, and she tried to kill her before the age of 5. And she let men come over, sexually abuse her daughter for money, because, you know, that was the industry she was in. She was just an unfit mother, and she was not ready to be a mom, and she didn't know what she was doing. The house was said to be a mess all the time. It was hardly furnished. Like, they lived in a really bad area, and because of the unstable family life, she lived with family members and like acquaintances and stuff. So my brows are just not coming out how I wanted them, but like it's fine, we'll work with it. She stayed with family members, she stayed with family acquaintances, and she just had a very unstable childhood. Bruh. She was raised in this unhealthy environment. Her abuse definitely took a toll on her. She would tell people that she wanted to harm people and kill someone. So she decided to do that. So one day, her and her friend Norma Bell, they have the same last name, but they aren't related in any way. They were playing with this 3-year-old boy. They were playing on top of an air raid shelter. He somehow fell off the roof of the air shelter, and he suffered severe injuries. It was said to have been an accident. Mary and Norma were not convicted of pushing him off the air raid shelter. And that was May 11th, 1968. The very next day, Mary was found choking 3 other girls, and so the mothers saw this and turned her into police, and the officials scolded her and didn't really do anything about it. They just scolded her and let her go back to her parents that same day. She was getting off the hook of all of these assaults, basically. So on May 25th, same year, Martin Brown was found dead in an abandoned house, and his body was found by 2 other boys. And Norma and Mary followed these boys into the abandoned house, and once police got there, they were escorted off the premises. It was not known to be a murder on the scene. They ruled it as an accident, and there was a bottle of pills found near him, and it was decided that he had choked on these pills found at the scene. They got off with that too. So May 26th, the next day, Mary was found choking Norma, and Norma's father saw her doing this. He slapped her, which isn't how you deal with an issue like that, or that's not how you deal with a problem like that. You don't slap a child. I've never believed in like slapping a child. Like, that's not really how you deal with that situation. But he slapped her and forced her to go home to her parents. So later that day, there was a break-in in a nursery nearby, and they found vandalism. And the vandalism said, a fuck off, we murder, watch out, Fanny, and I cannot say that word, the F word, a derogatory word towards the LGBT community. And it also said, we did murder Martin Brown, fuck off, you bastard. So 4 days later after this, Mary goes to the Brown household, and she asks his mother if she can see Martin. And, you know, she's crying. She's like, I'm sorry, he's passed. And she's like, oh, I know. I want to see his, she basically wanted to see his dead body in the casket, in the coffin. She wanted to see his dead body, like, what? Okay, then. So May 31st, an alarm went off at the same nursery where they found the vandalism, and it was Norma and Mary, of all people, were found there. And police officials went to the scene, and they found them there, and I love my dogs. So police were like, what were you doing there? They were like, oh, we were just hanging out, like, it's no big deal. And they asked if they had anything to do with that vandalism thing that happened a few days prior. They were like, no, that wasn't us. Like, no, that definitely wasn't us. And so they were left off free. They didn't get any charges. They went home to their parents that day. Their next and last victim's name is Brian Howe. He was a 3-year-old boy. His mother had passed away, and there is a quote from Mary that says something along the lines of, he won't be missed, he doesn't have a mother. But his sister Pat was talking to Mary, and Mary was like, maybe he's playing in that concrete over there when he was missing. And later that night, his body was found in where Mary said he was playing. And so his body was found with stab wounds, and there were also scissors found on the scene, but there were stab wounds on his thighs, and his genitals were skinned, basically, which is completely mortifying. Like, that these two young girls would do something like this to such a young boy. And so, during the autopsy, they also found an M carved on his stomach. And it wasn't found until a few days after, but it was also noticed that it was originally an N for Norma, but it was changed to an M with an extra little line. Mary boasted about being a murderer. She would talk about it at school. She'd be like, yeah, I'm a murderer. Like, I murdered someone. And she really talked about, I said before that she talked about wanting to harm people. Ugh. Went up my nose. So they found out that Norma and Mary did this to this young little boy. And during the trial, Norma was acquitted. I don't know why she was. I couldn't really figure that out. But they were some of the youngest murderers in England at that point. And it gained a lot of press. Mary's mother, Betty, ended up selling stories about Mary to the media or the public because, you know, they weren't very well off. And so Betty was like, I'm about to make some money off of my daughter killing someone because, you know, that's what she do. So this was August 1968 when both Norma and Mary were convicted of manslaughter. Psychiatrists said that Mary displayed, quote, classic symptoms of psychopathy. I don't know how you say it. Psychopathy. The judge described her to be dangerous and a threat to other children, which is true. She was definitely a threat to other children. So Mary was sent to Red Bank Secure Unit, and which was also, they also housed, what's his name? John Venables 25 years later. And I can do a video on him also, because that's a pretty interesting one also. In 1980, Mary was released from Askham Grange Open Prison, and she was 23 years old when she was released, and she was granted anonymity, and she was granted a new name, the whole nine. And she ended up having a child, May 25th, 1984, 4 years later after she was released. And the ironic thing about her daughter being born May 25th is, one, it's the day before her mother's birthday, and two, because Martin Brown's death was on that day. So for her to have a child on the day of one of her victims is kind of ironic, and I don't know, I just thought that was interesting. Her daughter was only granted anonymity until the age of 18, but they had brought it to court and she was granted anonymity for the rest of her life. And Mary ended up living a normal life. She was never convicted of anything else. She worked, didn't have a husband. It said that in 2009, she became a grandmother. Oh my God. That was the case of Mary Bell, the notorious child killer. Yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope this video comes out okay. I haven't tried editing before, so we'll see how this comes out. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed. Okay, thanks for watching.